Good morning, everybody. Good morning and welcome to the Board of County Commissioners Board Meeting on December 5th, 2023. And if we could have the call to order with the roll call, please. Thank you. Everybody, please take your seat. We're ready to go.
Commissioner Barnett. Here. Commissioner Baxter. Commissioner Bernard. Here. Vice Mayor Marino.
Here.
Mayor Sachs.
Here.
Commissioner Weiss.
Here.
Commissioner Woodward.
Here.
Thank you.
Very good. If we could now stand for the invocation. Our prayer is going to be said to us by Commissioner Weiss.
May we approach today's business as a task of faith, to do our best within our power to provide positive leadership on behalf of our community and those who live and work here, and that our decisions meet the standards of divine compassion for all. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Very good. Good morning, everybody. I'd like to make the announcement that we will break today at 12:15, hard break at 12:15, and we'll resume again at 2 p.m., matters by the public. Let the record reflect that we now have a full quorum present at this time. Very good. Let's go into the agenda approval. Are there any additions, deletions, substitutions to the agenda?
Yes, Mayor, Vice Mayor, and members of the board. On page 10 of your hard copy, 3C2 has been deleted. On page 18, item 3F7 has been renumbered to 5A3 and moved to regular. Page 27, 3H9 has been deleted for further staff review. Page 60, on the hard copies, 3E1 has been deleted and moved to the December 19th, 2023 meeting. On page 52, item 3T1 has been renumbered to 6A1, and that is a board appointment and will need a vote. On the hard copy, page 67, 5B3 is an add-on for Canyons Park. On page 67, 5B4 has been added on, and that's for Palmar property. Also on page 67, another Palmar item has been added on. On page on page 68, there is a revised summary for 5C1 as well as 5C2. Those two add the total amount of the grant or the contract amount for those projects that was left out.
Very good.
On page 70, and won't happen again. Page 70, we corrected in the summary the amount of acres on item 5D1. And again, on the 6A1 item will also show up. That concludes the add and delete.
Thank you very much, Madam Administrator. Now, if we could have a motion to approve the agenda as described. We have Vice Mayor Marino and a second by Commissioner Weiss. Everybody approve, anybody disapprove, see that it passes unanimously 7-0. Moving on now to the consent agenda. Is there anybody who wishes to pull anything from the consent agenda? Seeing no one at this time, I'd like to have a motion to approve the consent agenda as described. I see that first from Commissioner Bernard, seconded by Commissioner Baxter. All approve. Anybody disapprove? See that it passes unanimously 7-0. Moving on now to special presentations on page 62. This is always the best part. Let's start with District 7. And District 7 for the proclamation honoring Blake Wyatt Bookbinder. And then on the left side, we could have District 3, proclamation regarding recognizing the 60th anniversary of the American Hungarian Club of the Palm Beaches.
Would Darren and Amy Bookbinder please come forward? This morning, we're presenting this proclamation honoring Blake Wyatt Bookbinder. Whereas Blake Wyatt Bookbinder, 13, was a humorous, vibrant, athletic, compassionate, well-loved young man who tragically passed away on June 14th, 2023, while riding his bicycle with friends.
Oh, God.
And whereas his brilliant spirit and delightful personality impressed all who had the privilege of knowing him, and his versatile humor demonstrated how intelligent he was, especially at understanding people. And whereas Blake was a soccer star and a basketball wizard, who was often the funniest kid in any room, spreading laughter and joy wherever he went. And whereas he was sweet and caring, and his demeanor showed how kind-hearted he was, his warmth touched the hearts of everyone fortunate enough to have crossed his path. And whereas Blake leaves behind a loving family, including his parents, Amy Rosenwald and Darren Bookbinder, grandparents Stephen and Rosalind Bookbinder, and Alan and Claire Rosenwald, his beautiful sister Alexis, his aunts and uncles, Jill Bookbinder, Jamie and Kane Casco, Michael and Megan Rosenwald, and his cousins Sam and Amy Rosenwald. And whereas he will be dearly missed by his many friends, teammates, family, and all those who mourn the ultimate loss of a young life that touched their hearts in countless ways. Now therefore be it proclaimed by the Board of County Commissioners of Palm Beach County, Florida, assembled in regular session this 5th day of December 2023, that the board hereby honors Blake Wyatt Bookbinder. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Mayor Sachs and Commission. This is very hard for us. We wish we weren't here today. We miss our son on a daily basis. And we're trying to do something to keep his memory alive. We've started a foundation called Play for Blake. Blake was an avid soccer player and loved the game. So in a short period since he's passed, we've managed to start this organization called Play for Blake, where we are working with the Palm Beach schools, the middle schools right now, and we're going to be distributing soccer equipment to all 37 middle schools in Blake's name. We figure that's something he would want to do, and we're doing everything we can, like I said, to keep his memory alive, and we're very thankful for everybody here and for allowing us to be here and for this proclamation. We really appreciate it. So thank you very much.
I'm good.
Commissioner Barnett.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Good morning, everyone. I would like to invite Eula Kovacs to come join me, and anyone you might have with you. Thank you very much. Good morning. It's a proclamation of the Board of County Commissioners recognizing the 60th anniversary of the American Hungarian Club of the Palm Beaches. Whereas the American Hungarian Club of the Palm Beaches is a nonprofit, community-based organization in Lake Worth Beach, Florida, and has been serving the American Hungarian community in Palm Beach County for 60 years. And whereas, since its establishment in 1963, December 1963, the club has provided a meeting place for Hungarian Americans and everyone who enjoys Hungarian food, music, dance. And whereas the American Hungarian Club of the Palm Beaches provides a place for seniors and others to socialize and participate in activities every Thursday and Sunday. And whereas the club also provides volunteer hours for individuals exiting the criminal justice system. And whereas the American Hungarian Club of the Palm Beaches welcomes everyone, young and old, to celebrate Hungarian American culture and has served our community well for decades. Now therefore be it proclaimed by the Board of County Commissioners of Palm Beach County, Florida, assembled in regular session this 5th day of December 2023, that the board hereby recognizes the 60th anniversary of the American Hungarian Club of the Palm Beaches. Congratulations. Want to say a few words?
Just a few words. Thank you for the invitation, Commission. The Hungarians who fled in 1956 from the Russian invasion, a few thousand tanks, and 200,000 or 300,000 Hungarians fled to Western Europe, but mostly to America. And I became citizen this year. So, thank you, America. Yes, they built the home, and since then we are serving the community, and nothing else I can say. But not many people know that there is an American Hungarian Club. But every month we have an event, live music, Hungarian food, and that's all. Thank you very much.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, President Kovacs.
Thank you.
Food is good.
Would Jamar Hubba Bubba Battle and family please come forward? And also would Todd Von Laren please come forward, and some of the Palm Trans staff?
Grab my arm, guys.
Now, my last conversation with Mr. Clinton Forbes was, he called me on a Tuesday and asked me that to recognize Hubba Bubba. And so he was like, Commissioner Bernard, are you going to recognize him? And I told him yes. And so today we're honoring you in recognition of Mr. Clinton Forbes. This proclamation recognizing Jamar Hubba Bubba Battle for displaying tremendous resilience and bringing joy to Palm Beach County residents and visitors. Whereas Jamar Hubba Bubba battled contracted tuberculosis and meningitis at a young age, leaving him with disabilities. And whereas he has overcome adversity to become an iconic figure in Palm Beach County and bring joy to everyone he comes into contact with. And whereas Hubba Bubba can often be found near the Palm Trend bus stop on Westgate Avenue and Military Trail, dancing and singing with infectious enthusiasm. And whereas he teaches all of us that disabilities do not have to hinder our ability to bring joy and positivity into the world. And whereas Hubba Bubba's family is undoubtedly proud of him and his mother's work with children with disabilities for the last 27 years, shows strength and commitment to others in our community. And whereas his story is a testament to the county's inclusivity, kindness, and resilience, and Hubba Bubba's perseverance, wow, and determination brings smiles to many in our community. Now therefore be it proclaimed by the Board of County Commissioners of Palm Beach County, Florida, assembled in regular session this 5th day of December 2023, that the board hereby recognizes Jamar Hubba Bubba Battle for displaying tremendous resilience and bringing joy to Palm Beach County residents and visitors. Can everyone please stand to give Hubba Bubba a recognition?
I thank y'all so much for honoring me today. I wasn't looking towards for this, but I was just doing it for fun. But I really I didn't know this here was gonna take place. So I'm glad I made it this far, because a lot of people gave up and say, look, he's not gonna be this, he's not gonna be that. I say, look, I might not be what you don't, I might not be something now, but God got some in stores for me. Cause sometimes you can't rush out there. So I thank everybody out here that watch me, that honor me, that protect me. I don't know what to say. Thank y'all, love y'all, and God bless. And I want to sing something for Mr. Ford. I believe I can fly. I believe I can touch the sky. I think about it every night and day. Spread my wings and fly away. I believe I can soar. I see you running through that open door. I believe I can fly. I believe I can fly. I believe I can fly.
I'd like to recognize Commissioner Weiss with regard, and I'm glad that the gentleman from the Hungarian Club is still here. Go ahead, Commissioner.
Thank you very much. I just wanted to let you know that my family immigrated, my dad's family immigrated from Hungary to this country, and grandfather arrived here in 1911, so escaping another war, unfortunately. So glad to know that we have a Hungarian club here in the county, and maybe I can go and sample your food and remind me of my grandmother's cooking. So thank you.
I guess today's District 7 day.
It is.
Would Pastor Pierre Gregoire St. Louis, and some of the church members who are with him please come forward? It is an honor to present this certificate of recognition to Pastor Pierre Gregoire St. Louis. I've known Pastor Gregoire for, I think, close to 9 years right now, and he's done tremendous work in the community and in Palm Beach County. So it's an honor to present this certificate of recognition, which is presented to you, Pastor Gregoire. And it says, thank you for your 25 years of dedicated service to the residents of Palm Beach County. It is short, it is simple, but it is a recognition for your hard work. So thank you very much.
Good morning. Bonjour. I'm so glad to be here this morning. And first of all, I would like to share with you my loving story with Palm Beach County. All of this started in 1995 when my beloved wife and I, we moved from New Jersey to the beautiful Sunshine State. Three things attracted us to the Sunshine State: the beautiful weather, the exquisite landscape, and number three, the cultural mosaic. For the past, I would say 35 years, I spent 15 years with the School District of Palm Beach County, 10 years as the president of the Haitian Pastors Fellowship, and we just celebrate our 25th years as the senior pastor of Sinai Missionary Baptist Church. I enjoy living here in Palm Beach County. I enjoy serving here, and I do not have any plan to move somewhere else. So thanks again for your work, and I'm so glad to share this beautiful county with you, and I'm determined to continue to make an impact to others, as many of you are doing in this room here. Thank you, and may God bless you all.
Which will be found on the top of page 63, airports. Does anybody wish to have a staff report on the airports?
Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to move item 5A1, A, and B.
Very good, and we have second by Commissioner Baxter. All those,
Wait, I have one card, a non-speaking card.
okay, very good. Shall we vote first?
No, I should put this on the record.
Okay. Before we take the vote, we have a non-speaking card that will be read into the record by Commissioner Weiss.
It's from Ariel Richardson, and just she supports the item.
Very good. Okay, all those approve? Anybody disapprove? See that it passes 7-0. Very good, moving on. Thank you, that was fast. Okay, now on to 5A2, again with airports. Does any commissioner wish to have a staff report on 5A2, A and B?
Mayor, I'll go ahead and make a motion to move item 5A2, A, and B.
And I have a second from Commissioner Vice Mayor Marino. Do we have any cards, Commissioner Weiss?
No, ma'am.
Very good. All those approve, anybody disapprove? See that it passes 7-0. Now moving on to 5A3, and this was moved from consent. Does anybody wish to have a hearing on this, a report? Seeing none, then let's see, are there any cards, Commissioner Weiss?
No, ma'am.
Very good. I have a motion from Vice Mayor Marino, a second from Commissioner Baxter. All those approve. Anybody disapprove? See that it passes 7-0. Thank you very much, Ms. Beebe. Moving on to 5B1 on page 65. Would anybody like to have a report on this at this time? See none?
Yes.
Do we have any cards?
We're on 5B1? Yes.
Mayor,
Yes.
we have the presentation.
Would you like to have the presentation? Very good.
have two
Commissioner
cards.
Baxter has requested the presentation, and then we'll get into the cards if there's any. Go right ahead.
Good morning, Mayor, Vice Mayor, and Commissioners. It's me, Angela, Director of Facilities Development and Operations. With me here today is Purvi Bugaida, Director of FDO's Property and Real Estate Management Division, Chief Assistant County Attorney Howard Falcon, Jennifer Cirillo, Director of Parks and Recreation, and Bob Hamilton from Parks and Recreation as well. I believe you're the Director of the Planning Section, correct? Through this item, staff is requesting direction as to the future use of the county's 20-mile bend property for an off-highway vehicle park, a racetrack park, or a combination thereof. Allow us, please, to provide you a general overview of the matter under consideration. The county-owned real estate holding, commonly referred to as the 20-mile bend property, is the aggregation of 7 individual parcels, totaling approximately 128 acres. The property is generally located on the southeast quadrant of the intersection of State Road 80 and County Road 880, and located west of the PBSO shooting range facility. Of relevance to this item is the fact that the 20-mile bend property has been considered for 2 main uses, an off-highway vehicle park and a racetrack park. If the board were to direct staff to pursue any given use, the operational responsibility will fall on the Parks and Recreations Department, while the development and construction responsibility will fall on the Facilities Development and Operations Department. Therefore, I would like to transition to Jennifer, who is better positioned to explain the difference between the 2 uses.
Thank you, SME. Good morning, Mayor, Vice Mayor, Commissioners. When we look at the design of an OHV park, Florida State statute defines off-highway vehicles as any all-terrain vehicles, ATVs. There's a lot of acronyms used when we talk about OHVs, which are off-highway vehicles. So ATV is an all-terrain vehicle, 2-rider ATVs, recreation off-highway vehicles, which are known as ROVs, or off-highway motorcycles, OHMs, that is used off the roads or highways on the side, the roads of the state, and that is not registered or licensed for highway use under Florida Statute Chapter 320. So if you think about anything titled that is used off of the roads, that's the best way to kind of consider what is considered an OHV. Development of an OHV park entails designing, permitting, constructing, and maintaining a publicly accessible park area serving a public need for safe OHV recreational use. And when we look at the design of an OHV park, based on the definitions that the state set forth, the park design may include but not be limited to recreational areas separated by compatible OHV types. Those might comprise wooded trails, recreational mud areas, beginner, intermediate, and advanced OHV tracks, associated infrastructure such as site access, parking, restroom, site security, water, electric, certification areas, those types of associated infrastructure. Next slide, please. In 2013, the board authorized county staff to prepare a needs assessment and feasibility study for the development of an OHV park at the 20-mile bend site. The feasibility study was completed in 2015 and then updated in 2021. The study confirmed the need for an OHV park in the area and received support from multiple stakeholders. In 2021, the board directed staff to issue a request for proposal, or RFP, for the development and operation of an OHV park at 20-mile bend. Now, when we look at a racetrack park, it entails designing, permitting, constructing, and maintaining a publicly accessible park area serving a public need for safe motorized vehicle racing use, also understanding that there are different types of racing disciplines. When we look at the design of a racetrack park, it may include, but not be limited to, a drag strip with rollout and shutdown areas, road racing circuit course, kart racing track, mud racing, pit areas, associated parking, restroom, security, water, electric, and access infrastructure. Interest in developing a racetrack operation surfaced after the Palm Beach County International Raceway closed earlier this year, and the property owners pursued the regulatory approvals to redevelop the site for non-motorsports related uses. In June 2023, the board directed staff to issue an Request for Information, or RFI, to explore the possibility to site a publicly accessible racetrack park at 20 Mile Bend. Concurrently, staff commissioned a limited development review analysis to explore the regulatory and physical constraints, if any, associated with siting of the racetrack, and none were identified. I'm now going to turn it back over to Ismi.
Thank you, Jennifer. So let's go back to the process and how we have been working together since we received board direction. Following the direction in June 2021 received from the board, FDO and Parks work collectively, as we usually do in parks-related projects, in the issuance of a request for proposals for the development and operation of an OHB park at the 20 Mile Bend property. The RFP was advertised in June 2022. Responses were due in November 2022, and none were received. For context, this slide shows the conceptual plan for an OHB park that was developed as part of the feasibility study. The same was not included in the RFP, as respondents were expected to provide proposals for the development of the property. The graphic still helps to provide a general idea of how the site could be developed if it were to be used as an off-highway vehicle park. Having received no responses to the RFP and in alignment with prior standing direction from the board, it was our intention to wait approximately 6 months to reissue the RFP through an expanded advertisement approach. However, different board direction was provided in June 2023, which led to the issuance of a request for information to explore the possibility of developing a racetrack park on the property. It is important to keep in mind that an RFI is significantly different from an RFP. An RFI is a non-binding and non-competitive process used to obtain comments, feedback, information, or reaction from potential vendors prior to issuance of a solicitation. In other words, through an RFI, the county seeks responses from those performing the type of services it intends to retain. An RFI is not the mechanism used for stakeholder input, which we typically obtain through community meetings and forums. The RFI regarding the potential development of a racetrack park at the 20 Mile Bend property was published on July 5, 2023. With a closing date, as extended, of October 20, 2023. 9 responses were received. 1 came from the National Hot Rod Association. 6 came from individual users of racetrack facilities. 1 came from a user/consultant who leads a company that provides race management, track maintenance, equipment sales and rentals, surface renovation, graphics, and writing. And the remaining response was submitted by the National Motocross League LLC, a company that submitted a business plan, not responses to the questions we had included in the RFI, and proposed developing a combined project of 40 acres dedicated to dirt track racing and the remaining 80 acres dedicated to a drag racing facility. I would like to take this opportunity to clarify that the agenda item indicated that 7 of the 9 responses were from users. The response received from the user/consultant was labeled as such, as it was not submitted on its face value on behalf of the company. Following the closing date for the RFI and unrelated to the same, in November 2023, a racetrack user provided staff a copy of the economic impact analysis for development of a national event facility, which was commissioned by the National Hot Rod Association. As previously shared, concurrently with issuance of the RFI, staff commissioned a due diligence report to identify at a high level any regulatory fatal flaws affecting this use and development concept for the property. As part of the analysis, we requested our consultant to perform a fit test using the Moroso Motorsport Park, or Palm Beach County International Raceway, as the basis for comparison. This slide shows the results of said exercise. No regulatory fatal flaws were identified, although there are some conditions that require further study. Regulatory procedure will need to be accomplished, and there are some dimensional or physical constraints that are posed by the size and configuration of the property that will need to be assessed through programming and design. There are a couple general considerations that staff would like to bring to the board's attention. First, planning efforts for the off-highway vehicle park commenced in 2013. As a result, a good informational foundation exists for reissuance of the RFP. One direct result of this initiative having been in the works since 2013 is that county resources in the form of staff time and consultant services have been invested towards development of the project. On the other hand, the racetrack park initiative is fairly new. Although the due diligence report identified no regulatory fatal flaws, it called for the need to conduct further investigation and assessment to ensure project viability. Therefore, upon receiving board direction, staff will require additional time to proceed with the associated RFP and to commission professional studies. Second, since 2005, staff has maintained a planning arrangement for the eventual expansion of the PBSO shooting range. A point of consideration remains if the same will continue to be maintained in order to ensure that sufficient training and operation capabilities exist into the future. The land area that has been retained can be added to the scope of the development project, but one must keep in mind that such approach will lead to the shooting range being locked in place without future expansion capability. This leads to staff requests for direction as to which type of project the board would like us to pursue at the 20-mile band property, an off-highway vehicle park, a racetrack park, or a combination thereof. This concludes staff presentation, and we will gladly take any questions as this board deems it appropriate.
Thank you very much. I'd like to recognize Commissioner Weiss and then Commissioner Woodward.
Thank you. Thanks for the presentation. What's the property to the south of this site?
I want to say is owned by FPL, but I'm going here on my memory. Sounds about right.
What's it used for?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear the answer to what's...
It's owned by FPL.
My apologies. I'm going on my memory here, so hopefully I'm spot on, but I want to say it's owned by FPL.
Do you know what it's used for?
I believe it's vacant right now, and it has distribution and power lines.
Does it have any development rights or anything?
I don't know the answer to that question.
And then, I know we recently had to submit an inventory of our land to the state. This wasn't included in it. What was the designation for this property?
It was not included in the inventory because we have an assigned use to it, which per prior board direction was the OHV Park.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Woodward, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mayor. Did we hear back from the sheriff on giving us an opinion on the property that we're holding as?
Not yet.
Oh, okay.
All right, Commissioner Baxter.
Thank you, Mayor. Do we have cards on this item, too? Did we want to maybe hear them before we?
If there's, usually Commissioner Baxter, if anybody has anything to say, we'll say it now. We'll hear the cards, and then you can say it again.
Okay.
You want to wait until later? Okay, very good. We have a number of cards, and we're going to go ahead and proceed with those now. Commissioner Weiss.
Tyler Glock.
Good morning.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Tyler Glock. I live at 7600 Westlake Drive in West Palm Beach. And, okay, I don't know about 3 minutes. I'm going to give it a good try. This is 10 years in the making of trying to get the OHV area developed for off-road use. Started 2013. I just want to note some things here. Number one, you had mentioned the RFP that was released in June 2022. There was an RFP ready to be submitted. For those of you who don't know that, Brian Pennick was going to submit it, and he tragically fell off a ladder and died. And it really stalled our project. And, the RFP closed. We all got back together, and we were told, just like somebody had said, that it was going to be re-released in 6 months. Obviously, that never happened. I watched the news one day, and I saw people talking about the land being vacant and not used, which we all know is not true. This is currently designated for off-road use. So they've been waiting to submit this project. They have the funding. You all have seen the funding in the escrow, ready to go. ready to submit the RFP. For whatever reason, we're still here, talking about using it for something else, which I'll now go into. If you look at a site plan that was for the OHV park, you'll notice a big lake in the middle. That's because this site doesn't have ample drainage. If you want to talk to Parks and Rec, they'll tell you that it's literally a swamp. I can do simple math. Excuse me, I'm shaking, it's cold in here. It would cost, it would cost $4 million to just build a lake in the middle to suffice. The property is shaped like this, right? The reason that this was designated off-road land is because you can't build on it. I want to read something actually in the slideshow that wasn't actually read out loud, which is the amount of drainage area required has not been calculated. The drainage is shown based on assumptions of similar development. It was calculated. There were core borings taken. Eric Hall worked very hard on this project when he was in office. He knows what the land can and can't be used for. He's not here right now. We're just assuming, you that know about water management, you're just assuming that you can lay a half mile of concrete across a swampland, which isn't even possible. There's a reason this land is designated for this. I have lots of other notes. There is a submitted project from the National Motocross League. They have it. We're ready to build it. Let them move forward. A racetrack is not possible there. I would love to do the partnership thing. It would be awesome. We'd have both. It's just not feasible, And as everyone said or hasn't said, it's not feasible to put a racetrack there. The information says so that we do have. I requested it from the office. I didn't receive it from records, but I wanted to come up and show that today. I would love to have both. It's not possible. Don't waste your time. Don't waste any more of our time. We want our area to ride. Thanks.
Thank you, sir.
And then we have one other card. This is a non-speaking card. This is from Steve Salou, and I support the racetrack. I would like to see a racetrack that would also support tourist development, F1 road track for car clubs, etc. Please help keep this automobile sport alive and viable. Okay.
Mayor, if I may,
Sure, go ahead.
I would like to clarify a response I provided. We just did a quick check on GeoNav. The property to the south is owned by the South Florida Water Management District. The property to the east is owned by FPL.
Okay. Thank you, Isam.
And we don't know what they're doing with that property, do we?
I have no
Is it part of the
further
STA?
information other
That's what I
than
thought.
conservation for their uses.
Part of the STA, yeah. Stormwater treatment area.
And if I may add an additional comment,
Go right ahead, Isam.
we did receive a PRR, public records request from Mr. Glock. It was received last Thursday, if I want to say it correctly. Our team has been providing information as we're capturing the same and making sure we address the PRR. Has only been a couple of business days, which, as you can imagine, with the history in this project, takes a bit of time to put all the information together and answer to his PRR, but we are certainly doing so as we do with every other request we receive.
Very good. Commissioner Baxter, go right ahead. We have two other cards, however.
Okay.
Okay, would you rather wait? Aye. Go right ahead, Commissioner Weiss.
All right, we have two cards, one from Madeline Marconi and the other one from Mike Weinthal.
Good morning, Mayor, Vice Mayor, Commissioners. As you know, I don't know if you know, but I've really just been fighting for motorsports in Palm Beach County. This is Palm Beach County. We're blessed with the means. These residents, they have a lot of money. There's a lot of love for motorsports here. I've seen it personally. I hear about it, and I've witnessed it for the last 20 years. So this property is the perfect place to put a motorsports facility. I had the opportunity this past weekend to go to Manatee County, which is about 2.5 hours west, and attend the 52nd Snowbird Outlaw Nationals, and drag racing is alive and well. There's a lot of money in it. There is a lot of support. I had multiple people come up to me asking, what's going on in Palm Beach County? Maybe, is there something, is there a possibility for a racetrack? And I just told them, I sure hope so, because this is Palm Beach County, like I said. And we have the best of the best. I love this county, and I really think that this 20 Mile Bend property can fit this racetrack, and other things too. I truly believe that an OHV park may not be as economically viable for this area. To be able to attract investors, we need to have something that can really make money. And you know, this property could sincerely be used as motorsports facility to bring family and friends out there to race and just have fun, just the same way we did with Moroso Motorsports until it closed in 2022. So I can personally say there's a huge void in this community since its closure. So I just want to thank Sarah Baxter, Commissioner Baxter. She's really worked hard to get us back on track here in Palm Beach County. And like I said, Palm Beach County deserves it. We need it. We're asking you guys, and we just really hope, you know, you listen to us, and it all comes back to safety as well too. So having a motorsports facility will help keep these street racers off the streets. It'll be helpful to our small businesses. It'll bring tourism revenue into this county, which is, you know, what could be wrong with that? So a lot of great potential opportunities here. I just hope that you guys pursue a racetrack facility on this property. I don't think you'll regret it, and I just really hope so. So thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Ms. Marconi. Do we have another speaker?
Yeah.
Why don't you repeat the name and see what we'll see. Oh, here he is, gentlemen. Very good. Good morning.
Good morning. I'm unprepared. I was unaware that there would be public comment, so.
You go right ahead and give us your
I'm
name.
just going to go as usual.
Name and address.
My
sir.
name is Mark Weinthal, Murray Speed and Custom. I am an owner of a business that's been in existence in South Florida since 1939. Where our main focus is performance, automotive racing. I can tell you there is a very large void by not having a facility in Dade, Broward, or Palm Beach County where you could drag race. There is facilities obviously in Immokalee, Bradenton, and Orlando, as well as Gainesville. Majority of my customers are now traveling, so now we are losing that revenue in the county of Palm Beach County to race. The bottom line is safety, as you guys have all heard me talk before, and the majority of the time, safety, getting people off the streets to race, place to race for families to learn, for kids to develop skills within racing. I can tell you my kids can do just about anything when it comes to working with their hands and everything else. Neither one of my kids, both of my kids are professionals, but they know how to do everything with their hands because of racing. I believe this facility would be better earmarked for a motorsports park than a ATV motorcycle park. There is another ATV motorcycle park within the county. There is no drag strip or road race facility in this county. Another thing to be looking at also is mud bogging. There's a huge airboat buggy community here. I can tell you all about it. It's very viable. A good portion of my customer base is buggies, airboating, and things of that nature. Don't have a whole lot to, like I said, I'm unprepared. I appreciate you letting me come up and talk. I do believe that this facility would be best used as a motorsports facility, being again, either drag racing, road racing, drifting, mud bogging, airboat racing, etc. There is other motorcycle tracks within the community. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. All right, if there are no other cards, are there any questions for staff? We're going to proceed with commissioner comments. Commissioner Baxter, you're on.
Thank you, Mayor. Isami, could you please pull up the site plan? Thank you. So we've had a good year as commissioners and a lot of tough discussions up here. And during one of those tough discussions, it was one of my fellow commissioners when we were debating the GL thing that said, we don't need them. We can get stuff done here. We, the board, can get things done without relying on them to build us things. Well, this was something that combined and was able to fit the most amount of uses into this property to serve the most amount of people and have the largest economic impact in the county to serve the residents. This site plan is actually contingent upon, and I have had conversations with the sheriff, so unless he has changed his mind, about using the drainage, which would create a natural berm of sorts of a water that goes along the shooting range. And so that would free up more space so we could have, this is a duplicate of the drag strip at Moroso superimposed onto this site. It would require working with the sheriff. And he didn't have any objections, and he seemed very supportive, actually, because he is aware of the street racing and so on, and giving them a safe place to go. So this is what I think gives us the OHV, ATV, and a drag strip, places to park. It serves multiple purposes for the community. My concern is that when we just had the OHV park, and again, to Tyler's point, that was out there for 10 years, relying on just the public. We have pickleball and basketball and baseball and all kinds of parks and recreational facilities. We match dollars with the feds. We match dollars from the state. We match dollars coming into the county. Is there something that would potentially stop us to help maybe incentivize even more so the private sector of matching maybe private dollars and building a facility that serves a lot of people? Because this, and maybe I leave that to the experts at Being You staff, and thank you for all your hard work of seeing how that could potentially work. But I'm mentioning it now just to get some feedback from my fellow commissioners. See where you stand, see what you think. I just think there's a huge need out there, and not everyone. We have a lot of parks and recreation facilities already. This would be very unique, and just serve a lot of our residents.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Weiss, you're recognized.
Thank you. Isme, I've got my computer up here, and I've been trying to look at, my GeoNav and find this parcel. Everything I find out there seems like it's showing that it's owned by South Florida Water Management. Can you bring up?
Commissioner, I know she's going to bring it up, but it's actually 7 different parcels. Some of it was previously acquired from the district, from South Florida Water Management District. So I know Isme will bring it up and show the configuration of the property. But the county did
Is it
acquire
possible
some
that they haven't updated the ownership?
I could not speak to the system administration, but Isme will point out specifically what parcels comprise this 20-mile bend that is owned by the county and in the Parks and Recreation inventory of the property.
Good. Jennifer, while she's looking for that, do you think it's possible that we have leased this, like we have other parks with South Florida Water Management, or do we actually own it?
No, Mayor, we own this. This
we
is
own
different
it.
than West Story Regional Park that we lease from South Florida Water Management
Very
District.
good. Thank you. No, sir. No, sir. We can do it. Thank you, though. Maybe the microphone should go on.
My apologies for the back
Sorry.
and forth, but we don't have a microphone there. I'm gonna request assistance, but there you have the first parcel highlighted. If you can go to the east. Click on that one, please, right there. Kirby is gonna help me. This might work a little bit better. So as Jennifer stated, we actually have an aggregation of 7 parcels coming together. Okay, so 1, Palm Beach County as well. Okay. Yeah. Bottom, yeah, south. That's South Florida. So,
Not find it.
as part of the agenda item, and we also have it on the presentation, I want to say it's the third slide, second or third slide. You have numbers to each of the parcels, and then on the bottom list, you have all the PCNs, if that helps. Can we go back to the presentation? That might help.
I messed up my map anyways. I don't know what I did to it.
Slide 2. Might be a little bit harder to see there, but you have numbers on each parcel, and then towards the bottom of the slide, you have the PCNs listed.
See,
I mean,
okay.
I trust you, but I just, for whatever reason, it's, when I go to my GeoNav and I start clicking on parcels out there, I don't find it named.
We can go back to GeoNav. That's, please
That'd be great.
transition back.
We know what land we own,
Exactly. So you see
and this is our land.
under owner, it says Palm Beach County for each one of the parcels that Purby highlighted.
Okay.
Okay, so on your left, right there, Palm Beach County. Again, the county. Not sure where the discrepancy is, Commissioner
I have
Weiss.
a couple other questions for you. So you talked about the RFIs, and you described, I think, what's happened in the past. So is this uncommon to put out an RFI and not to get responsive?
An RFI is a non-competitive, non-binding process. Our experience with RFIs has been, to date, that we request information, and we typically get the vendors, the contractors, the developers that work in the field we are interested about acquiring information, responding back. That was not the case here. Here, we got users responding to our RFI, which is not what we were looking for.
I read the responses, and most of them were blank. I mean, other than, sort of supporting it, they were the users.
Exactly.
And then there was the one for the off-road racetrack plan with the gambling and teams and sort of program that they had envisioned.
So we got basically 3 types of responses, if I may summarize. We have users that left most questions blank because they were not positioned to answer questions that were aimed towards developers, right? They didn't have the information. We had a National Hot Road Association that provided responses from an association perspective, meaning to say, yes, we think this is a good initiative, but if you are seeking additional details, you should talk to the owner or the developer. Well, we are the owner, we're trying to get additional information, and the developer is who we're trying to bring to the table. And then the third class was a business plan, which I think by definition doesn't even address the questions we put together. We had a total of 19 questions trying to get that information that will help us better inform an RFP. And the typical process of an RFI is that we put questions to help us inform where we should be targeting. That has not been our experience before. Since 2017, we have issued 4 different RFIs, this one included. In the prior one, we actually had companies, meaning to say those that we were interested in the field, coming back and providing responses. I hope that answers your question.
So nobody who develops, operates, finances these types of facilities responded?
No, we received a response indicating that they were willing to develop, but it's a fairly new company, has been in business for 2 years. The business plan tends to show that this will be their first initiative, and then we had the user/consultant who was willing to provide consultant services in assisting in the development. Jennifer?
Mayor, if I may, I also just want to clarify for everybody, because this has been a complicated process. The RFI was very specific to a racetrack park. The the previous RFP was very specific to an OHV park. They did not, neither one really suggested or allowed for alternates. And so I just want to make that clarification. You know, as we seek board direction, you know, one of the options that we had on the slide there was to allow for an either-or approach, as Commissioner Baxter showed an option to, and allow for alternates. And the reason I bring up the word alternates is because there is a grant program through the state called the T. Mark Schmidt Trust Fund. And it does fund public entities to contribute to, or in Polk County's case recently, to fully fund a series of grants, an OHV property. It encourages people to do that. It has been the previous board's direction that the county would not be involved in building the site. You know, we certainly are going to talk about other funding issues related to parks in the near future, so that is not at all what I'm proposing, but I do think by allowing alternates, it does allow for someone, a developer, to say, we will have an element that may be eligible for that grant, and we would like the county to partner at no obligation or payout from the county, but be eligible for a T. Mark Schmidt grant to, for example, build a bridge to access the property, because that's a big capital investment of anybody that would develop a park of this type for either use. So I just wanted to clarify that the RFI was very specific to a racetrack park. The RFP was very specific to an OHV park. And one of the options on the table for the commission to consider is allowing either or both uses, and to allow for alternate proposals as well.
Please allow me to build on that. The reason they were specific is because that's the direction we received.
No, I
right?
understand.
We
I
were
understand. Thank you, Isami. Are there any other questions or comments by commissioners? All right, let me say a few words. First of all, let me ask you, Isami, what is this parcel of land that we have? What is it designated as today? What is the designation? I know we heard from a speaker that said it was a swamp, or that it was part of it was underwater. Drainage was an issue. What is it designated today?
We're talking about future land use and zoning,
Correct.
right?
Correct.
Not use. It has a future land use designation of agriculture production. If you bear with me for a second, I will provide you. Zoning is public ownership. So agriculture production and public ownership zoning.
And we own this in fee simple. This is our land.
That is correct.
Do we intend to, or is there any intentions to develop this as agriculture? Does anybody see any future land uses agriculture for this?
Not at this point, based on the direction we have been provided.
I think that we lost an international raceway that had been in development and use in this county by our county residents for many, many years. And I think it was financially viable under Morosa's ownership and their production of the land and the use. When it was sold, I don't think it was maintained as well, and it didn't do well financially. I think we owe it to the people in this county to request information as to replication of a type of raceway. I think we owe it to the kids to get them off the roads. I would like to see one. I think this is the highest and best use of this land. Let me put it that way, very simply. It's our land. We own it. In a sense, I feel like we own an obligation to our people here in the county to put it out there and see if there are companies, public-private partnerships, that would come in with us to operate a type of recreation area for our people. Moroso, I've raced at Moroso, not really raced. I did the racetrack. Luckily, there wasn't another car at the same time, so I won. But I tell you what was at Moroso, which was tremendously important, was a Skip Barber driving school for my kids. And I know that my son would have died if not for this Skip Barber racing course that taught him how to avert a very deadly accident. And I think that we owe it, we owe it to the kids in our county to look into this. We're not saying we're going to build it. We're not saying that we're going to put any money into it. We're going to look and advertise, see if there's public-private partnerships. Put it out for the grants that Ms. Cirillo was talking about for the state. If we don't, we won't find out. If we do, we're open to money coming in from the state to help us operate a recreational area for our kids and for our residents. So I think it would be a disservice to our residents if we did not at least open it up and find out if we have these. So with that, I am going to recognize Commissioner Baxter and then Commissioner Marino and then Commissioner Weiss. Go right ahead, Commissioner.
Thank you, Mayor. I would like to see space for both. When we initially put out the RFI, there was a potential for another location for other things, but just in the spirit of moving forward and moving on, I think, and then that way, if we put out for information and with potential for grants and maybe ask, the question, is there some reason or some financial, how much would they need in grants or in assistance to make it viable for the private partnership? I think that would be amazing. Have some serious conversations with the sheriff and make sure and confirm that he's okay with what's been presented. And, potentially see if he'd be willing to put something in writing. And that's, I think, all we can really ask for at this point because it's changed. Situations have changed. Things have changed. And I think that would give us most of the information we need. A lot of the legwork for something like this, a lot's been done. And so I do appreciate you guys, and thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Marino.
Thank you, Mayor. There are several things that need to be cleared up before we do this, and the sheriff is one of them, and that would need to be in writing, absolutely. The other, and reading the report, and you said there's no fatal flaws, but there is a whole section that FBNL has with transmission lines, and we don't know if we can do anything under that land, so that would change the scope of the property that's usable. P3 partnerships are fabulous if they're done properly. The county and the city of Palm Beach Gardens did a great P3, and the county's contribution to that was the land. If we're going to do this, our contribution to this is the land. With all the shortfalls we have right now in the parks that we are already building, I don't see the county being somebody that's putting up money for this project. It has to be an operator, a user. They are doing the construction. They are taking on the responsibility. They are taking on the liability. It's not, we don't have the dollars to construct this. By putting our land in, that is our part. The grants could probably, now that we've got our skin in the game in the land, the grants would then be able to be asked for or written for because there is a partnership with the county. But I would not be in support of a facility that the county has to build. This has to be a private enterprise. Our contribution is the land. Thank you.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Commissioner Weiss.
Thank you, Mayor. So I'd like to see all options available. I'd like to see that, whether it's OHV, whether it's a racetrack, if anybody can develop something that is of value to our community, then I think we should consider that. I don't have any issue with us partnering or being the pass-through on grants. That's if that's helpful. I think it's imperative we speak to South Florida Water Management District as their property abuts this, and any concerns that they may have or issues, and I don't know if their permits are going to be required from them as it relates as we have now discussed that the stormwater treatment area, which is water that flows into the Everglades, that's where it's cleaned and runs into the Everglades. And I agree with comments of Vice Mayor. We had, as last week's meeting, we talked about unfunded projects, I think to the tune of $700 million that we're not able to move forward on. And I think, and many of those are very high priorities for the county, so I can't envision us being able to put our own money into a facility like this or operate it, as was mentioned by Vice Mayor Marino. All right, thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Bernard.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I support, as was said, all the options in terms of an OHV park or an ATV park or drag racing. However, I do not support using any county funds because, with the shortages that, we're facing right now. I do believe that, as was said, we need to speak to the South Florida Water Management District. I'd like to also figure out from the farmers in the western area to see if there would be any impact to the farmers in the western area farmers, and also to have a conversation with FP&L, and also to include some type of if you're going to do a drag racing, then, a sound study would be advised, so in that way we know how it would impact the area. Thank you.
Commissioner Bernard, is that in form of a motion for approval for the direction of the staff?
No, this is just direction. I don't know if we need to do
Okay,
a
very
motion.
good. And I think you all have direction. If there's anybody else that wishes to say anything from the commission, otherwise,
May
give your
I-
marching orders.
May I recap the direction, just to make sure we're heading
Very
in the
good.
right,
That would be excellent.
on the
Thank you.
right path? We will be pursuing an RFP to consider all potential uses on the property. We will be reaching out to the key stakeholders, aside from community, FPL, South Florida Water Management, and the farmers in the area and other associated entities. If I may suggest and request this board authorization, I would like us staff to proceed with an expanded due diligence report. Through that process, we will take care of the noise concerns and all the other conditions that were identified in the limited due diligence report. That will allow us as well to better inform the RFP. Should I consider that our
Yes,
direction?
I also believe that Vice Mayor Marino wanted a letter from the sheriff as advocated by the commissioner in this area, Baxter. So barring none, I think we want to hear also from Ms. Baker.
Just a point of clarification, when Commissioner Marino, you talked about the land, are we talking about deeding the land over, or are we simply talking about leasing of the, I just want to clarify, leasing of the land? That is what staff would be recommending to you.
I believe that if we were going to get any grants, we would need to have stake in the game. Our stake, our skin in the game would be the land.
Is that fine, Isami? You've
Yes,
got,
it is. We
Got
do
all the
appreciate-
points?
We do appreciate that
Thank
direction.
you very much, and that will also include application for those grants as well. Thank you very much for your work. Appreciate it. Now we're going to move on. All right, looking at we have on page 66, the top of 66, 5B, 2AB, C, and D.
Mayor, may I make a motion that we approve the 5B, 2A, B, C, and D? The agreement for purchase of sale, a memorandum of agreement, agreement for purchase of sale, and a memorandum of agreement.
Very good. Ms. Kaufman, can we go ahead and include all of those in one motion? Very good.
Okay.
Okay, is there, I'm sorry, go ahead, Vice Mayor. Is there anything else?
No, we're going to come back to Palmar.
Okay. Do I have a second to Vice Mayor's motion by Commissioner Weiss? All those approve, anybody disapprove? See that it passes unanimously 7-0. Moving on to the next page on 5B2. 5B3. Very good, Maria.
Okay.
This is an add-on, and and this is in regard to the Canyon District Park project. So, does anybody wish to have a staff report on this? Yes. Commissioner Weiss would like to have that staff report, and so would the mayor. So why don't you go ahead and proceed?
Good morning again, and allow me to recognize that Chief Assistant County Attorney Mike Jones has joined us at the table. If we can go to slide 2. During its November 28, 23 Board of County Commissioners workshop meeting, while discussing the county's 5-year capital improvement program, the board directed staff to bring back for consideration the specifics on the design of the projects before proceeding with further development. Canyon District Park was one of such projects. Coincidentally, at the time of the workshop, we had reported that we had drawings at 95% completion. They were under review, and we were actually wrapping up that process and preparing to proceed with the submission of the permit application for phase 2 of the project. Submission of the permit application was planned to occur prior to the end of the year. The new Florida Building Code, will enter into effect at the end of the year, December 31st, 2023, and as a result, the previously referenced board direction makes it now paramount for staff to receive further direction whether to proceed with project development at this time and the permit application. If the permit application is not filed before the new building code enters into effect, then additional cost and time will be required to revise the drawings so that we can then proceed with a permit application. Against this backdrop, please allow me to explain the scope of the design for phase 2 of the Canyon District Park. This slide is a simplified version of the one we shared during the workshop meeting, as it only highlights the district park. Please note that phase 1 and 1A of the park, which were placed in service in September 2022, are highlighted in pink, and the site for phase 2 is highlighted in blue. Note as well that there is an area within the limits of phase 1 that will be built as part of the phase 2 construction effort. This slide shows the site plan for the whole park, with phase 2 highlighted in red. Let us review phase 2 more closely. As we do so, please note that on the left side of each slide, you will see the site plan, and then on the right side, you will have a close-up of the area being discussed. Starting with the baseball, softball fields, phase 2 will provide a total of 4, along with 2 batting cages and typical ancillary accommodations, such as bleachers and dugouts. This slide shows a rendering of the baseball fields and those ancillary improvements to provide a better visualization of the design, and it's just for visualization purposes. I can only emphasize that so much. Phase 2 also includes 2 sand volleyball courts and an all-abilities playground. This next slide provides a rendering of the playground area for a more complete understanding of the intended improvements and conditions. Next one. There you go. As typical with any park development, parking areas are a must, and 4 will be provided. Supporting facilities such as pavilions, restrooms, storage, concession, and service buildings are identified on this slide, and their specific placement highlighted with green dots. The next slide shows the elevations for the concession building and the storage building. Okay, and here we have the elevations for the pavilion and the restroom building. I shall note that all structures are designed for durability, longevity, and to minimize the need for recurrence, maintenance, and renewal replacement. Although not graphically represented, I shall note that the project includes all required site work and ancillary infrastructure, such as sidewalks, lighting, fencing, drainage systems, landscape, signage, and the like. As we have previously shared with the board, as a construction department, FDO is responsible for delivering the projects, but we do so in very close coordination with the departments we service. In this case, Parks and Recreation has the lead in establishing the service level needs and proposed program. Therefore, I would like to leave the floor to Jennifer, who is certainly better positioned to elaborate as to why each of the amenities included was determined to be a key for service provision.
Good morning again, Mayor, Vice Mayor, Commissioners. So very different park we're talking about here. A district park design focus by its nature is very active recreation surrounded by native plantings and fitness elements consistent with our comprehensive plan recreation and open space element. To determine the priorities for this park, Canyon District Park, we engaged the community through several meetings and surveys to find out what their priorities and needs were. Sports fields, specifically baseball, softball, soccer, and lacrosse, came out at the top of those surveys and meetings. Areas for intergenerational socialization, a large destination all abilities playground, fitness trails, and picnicking were also high on their list. And then court sports. There's also an interlocal opportunity here. What was not on the map and that you previously saw was that there's a recently completed middle school next door to this park property. So when we have an interlocal collaboration with a school, similar to Park Vista High School that's in West Boynton, we have an opportunity that we don't have to fit all the courts in the district park. The school can build some of the courts, we can build some of the courts and fields and have an interlocal agreement to reach efficiencies and cost savings by using one another's facilities. So our intent is to later this year, or I guess technically next year now, bring to you an interlocal agreement with the middle school if we are able to complete our fields to move forward and share space with them. That we would use basketball and tennis courts on their school district property, and they also have a field with a small track around it. And then they, in turn, would use our baseball, softball fields, our existing soccer, lacrosse fields. And then, as you saw in the design, sand volleyball courts are included, which is actually a growing sport. There's 13 high schools through Florida High School Athletic Association, and I believe middle schools will be next with sand volleyball as a growing sport for youth. And so I just want to stress that that interlocal aspect and these needs and what was included in this park was driven by the community. A close second, I do want to just give mention that a dog park in the area and pickleball courts, always pickleball comes out on top. Although tennis courts can be modified, our intention is in the future. There's a Windsor Park property that's on Hypoluxa Road that we have a concept plan for a dog park that will fit there. We just couldn't fit everything in one district park. There's a long list of things that the community wants. And many of these communities do have recreation in their communities, but not all of them do. And they might have a swimming pool and a gathering space and maybe a small playground, but they don't have that all abilities playground where everybody can come together and play with their community. So I'm gonna turn it back over to Ismi.
Thank you, Jennifer. Going back to the mechanics of the project, as we shared with the board during the workshop meeting last week, this project has a budget shortfall. Funding availability is approximately $14 million, 13.8 to be a little bit more exact. And construction costs for phase 2 are estimated, and that's just the recent estimated $27 million plus associated soft costs. And those soft costs include permit fees, staff time, furnishings. Those are estimated at around $3 million. So if we add the two together and take into account the available funding, we're talking about a shortfall in the range of $16 million. Our request for board direction today is not directly tied to closing the budget gap, but rather given the direction received during the workshop meeting, center on understanding if we should proceed to filing the permits as we had previously planned, which will come with an expectation eventually to address the funding part of the equation. I know we do have some options to be considered by the board. Why are we requesting direction now to address this topic? Because as I explained at the beginning of the presentation, we have a new building code that will enter into effect with the new year in January 2024. Staff and our consultant, Architecture Green, who was here last week at the workshop meeting, we had planned to submit the permit application before the year's end. If the same is not submitted, then the drawings will need to be revised to ensure we are then in compliance with the new code, and that will add cost and time to the project. This concludes our presentation, and we will again gladly take questions as needed.
Very good, thank you. I just want to make sure that what we're going to vote on today is to move forward with getting these site plans approved, because if we delay, then we're going to come under a new building code, which then we have to have spend additional funds for revision of our plans. So today's discussion will and vote will target moving forward on these plans today in 2023 rather than
That is correct.
delay. Is that it? Okay,
that is
very
the
good.
direction we're
Excellent.
requesting.
Just want to be sure. Vice Mayor Marino, you're recognized.
Thank you. Obviously, from last week, projections from how our infrastructure sales tax dollars were going to get spent have escalated due to every cost going up. So my question is very simple. Without passing this cost on to our taxpayers, how do we pay this?
Administrator Baker.
We are working on a synopsis. When we wrapped up our workshop last week, we laid out a couple of 4 options for the board to consider. We're moving forward, as your administrator, working with my fiscal folks, we're moving forward with some options we're going to bring back to you. And we'll fully vet them. When we talked about the 700 million,
700 million.
the B, 200 of that was for South County. This board can direct us to put that in abeyance or hold off on that. The other was a part of projects that we have started. It's our 5-year road program. They're all programs that this board has approved, drainage, et cetera. We're looking at our current year funds. IST, we've got roughly about 63 million in there. Our opera funds from the interest, we have roughly about 11.7 million. We also discussed the possibility during the workshops last year of the potential of a bond, but that was directly related to our discussion for South County, okay? We could issue revenue bonds. If we moved forward like we had in the budget workshop last year, that amount we could use to help offset some of this cost, not relating back to South County. And then still keep our debt service pretty low. In the next couple of years, we're going to have more projects completed, bonds, debt service being reduced. And if we kept track of that for the next couple of years, like I think it's 24, we'll see some drop off. 26, we may see some drop off, and then 28. So if we issued bonds staying within the debt service parameter, we could still remain level as far as debt service payments are concerned. So that's 100,000, and we believe in March, when we complete our budget, we'd have 30 million.
You said 100,000.
For bond. 100 million, I'm sorry. 100 million. And then 30 million for our, when we adjust for balance brought forward. So we'll end up very close in closing out projects, sweeping all the dollars that we have, close to 220 million that we will have, that we could come up with just based on that revenue, and if balance brought forward comes in as we anticipate. So we believe we would have enough to come back to the board. We'll have all the details when we come back to the board to lay out how we can continue to move forward with projects you have already approved and we're in the midst of, unless this board determines that we need to do something different.
Thank you. Mayor, may I
Ms. Baker.
continue?
Vice Mayor?
Thank you. While it is not on the agenda today, Lake Lytle was also something that was brought up and not put on our agenda, but I do want to say that I did talk about unintended consequences last week. And one of the unintended consequences for Lake Lytle is the fact that the YMCA is using the project as a way to fundraise and has been affected because of our discussion last week. So while we have canyons on here now, I think we need to put Lake Lytle to bed also. And that is not a motion, but that is when we can take that back up again. I want to make sure that we do that. We have projects that we've already started. I think those are a priority. I think we have projects that are a wish, like you talked about the dog park. I think that's a wish. Those are not a priority. We really need to figure out what our priorities are, what the unintended consequences of those priorities are. And we need to make sure that we do not have such a ripple effect that an organization that is trying to do a public-private partnership with us, like the YMCA at Lake Lytle, gets hurt in the process. So since we have an estimate of $220 million, I believe, and I know this is in the mayor's district, but she can't make the motion. I know we still have comments, but I would like to make the motion that we move this project forward. But again, it is already in the process. That is the only reason why I am moving this one forward.
Thank you, Vice Mayor.
Thank you.
Commissioner Woodward, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mayor. If we were to move forward with pulling the permits, which is really what we're voting on today, how long are those permits valid before we would actually need to be breaking ground?
I'm thinking just to make sure I provide you the right answer. I am inclined to say we have a year to commence construction, but if the board will allow me to circle back and confirm in writing, I'm going to hear on my recollection. We are also, the regulations allow us for extend and request extensions, right? So typical process, if I may add, once we obtain permit, concurrently we're doing the GMP, and we will then be positioned to come back to the board with a guaranteed maximum price. But please allow me to circle back.
Okay, and can you, what's the expected cost of permitting if we were to move forward with what you're asking? Excuse me.
We will have that cover under the current funds. If you give me a second, if I may. I'm pulling up that additional information. There's only so much I can print at any given time. I apologize for the delay. Okay.
It can be a rough estimate, too. You don't have to be.
We have a portion of the permits included in the GMP, which means is capture as part of that estimate of the $27 million. I shall speak properly. And the other portion is roughly about 85,000.
So 85,000 for the permitting?
For permitting and fees, correct.
Okay. And you're estimating if we were to delay this, we're looking at 240,000.
That is a worst-case scenario provided by the consultant as to the time he will need to spend reviewing every single drawing and then making sure that the same is compliant with the new code.
So at this point, if we move forward with the permitting, we're pretty much locked in with what we're looking to do. And the estimated $27 million up from 13.8, what are the chances, should the market cool? Because there's some deflation happening right now in certain aspects. What is the potential that number could go down?
Couple comments to that, if I may, Commissioner, and this aligns with what we shared with the board last week. There are a few options that the board can take with any given project. Those options, very similar to those that are pursued by our peers, include reducing the scope, include building on a phase approach. So we could carve out, once you have the entire permit approved, an entire site plan. Nothing precludes you from saying, okay, I'm going to do this phase first. I'm going to cut it in half just for sake of the conversation. And I'm going to implement phase 2A first, to give it a label, and then phase 2B, right? Those are tools that can be considered. Those are tools that, depending on where the board wants to go, we can recommend. I do not have a means to tell you if the market is going to cool down. You may remember that last week we had a representative from Ecom and a representative from Jacobs join us. The white papers or opinion letters they provided us both stated that it is suspected that escalation will continue. So that's an ongoing challenge. I do not have, based on the research that I customarily perform as the FDO director, making sure I stay abreast of what's happening on the industry, anything telling me that it's going to cool down. I certainly wish it would.
Okay, and if I could, Mayor?
Go right ahead, Commissioner Woodward.
The interlocal agreement that you discussed with the school district, is there any funds that would come with that, or is that just an agreement to switch properties as
No,
needed?
interlocal, they're mutual use agreements, so we have mutual use for recreation facilities. We do have an agreement that is county-wide. So right now, we use the school district gymnasiums, for example, or outdoor courts, and they use our fields. That is at no cost. We don't pay each other for that. It's just mutual use. We agree it's for the benefit of the kids in our community, and so we share recreation amenities. We have a couple that are very specific to a school and a park that are side by side. So I brought up Park Vista as an example of that, and it was specifically designed together where they have courts that, security is very big to the school system, understandably. So they have courts that are unlocked in a way that have gating, double gating, so that it's accessible to the public at night, and then it changes and it becomes a PE amenity during the day, those types of things. So those interlocals, the school district and us mutually agree that the kids benefit from it, and we don't pay each other for those uses.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Woodward. I recognize Commissioner Baxter.
Thank you, Mayor. A couple questions. I had mentioned during the workshop about the potential bringing back to us some possible ways to reduce cost of these programs. So I'd really like to get that, maybe if we're going to keep seeing capital projects and things in the works coming before us, look at some other ways for even the projects already in the works. How can we, streamline processes or just reduce the costs overall, so we can get these projects done and not be a burden to the taxpayers. And obviously, I would like to still look at and not take, the next 7 months to get an overall look at the budget, really, and see, because the only thing that seems to be before us are capital budgets. And as we know, there are several funds in different places, and see where the board, with those priorities, would like to focus the dollars and what they feel is a necessity. But to that, I do want to thank you, and I am going to second Vice Mayor's motion to support this. It's already in process.
Very good. Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Bernard?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I do support proceeding with submitting for the permit before the end of this year. In regards to the discussion on the funding, I guess that'll be something that we'll have to have a discussion, at a later time period. Sorry I was not at the meeting last Tuesday, but with the $700 million shortfall, I don't know if there's been any discussion in regards to the penny sales tax in terms of it sunsetting, and because I know we've received emails from different municipalities. I'd like to see kind of like what's going to be kind of like our approach, if we're going to let this sunset or let it continue, and because that would be a discussion that we would need to have as a board, and also with the League of Cities, and also with the school district. So that could kind of like help us in terms of deciding kind of like projects for the future. In regards to the South County Municipal Complex, I think that in my opinion, I think that we need to take a look at potential of a P3 partnership, because this $200 million is a lot, and like we're not able to, there's things that are costing us too much money, and we need to look at creating partnerships. And I know for me, I would love to see what would the private sector would like to see, and what can we do where it could help us in terms of not spending all these dollars. And because I just think that a lot of it is waste. And let's take a look at a P3 and see what someone else, a private partnership would be like. So those are some of the concerns since I was at the meeting. I wasn't at the meeting last week. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Bernard. Commissioner Woodward.
Thank you. I wanted to mention, I wrote it down and then I forgot to say it, your phased A and B approach. I think that that's something we should consider. We can move forward with getting the permitting and then really prioritize which part of phase one to move forward with, and then, get our funding better in order and, address some of these other issues. I agree with South County. That's a hard one to swallow. I use that office a lot, and at this point, I'm like, I'm okay with it. That's a lot of money, and if we could come up with a different way to do that when the time comes, it's not, for me, a priority. I know Commissioner Marino doesn't want to hear this, but animal care and control would rank above that for me, would rank higher. Well, that ranks above it. Okay, good. So yeah, I agree. Animal care and control needs to be up there, and just because this is so far down the line, otherwise I probably would not be supportive of this today, but because it's done and we're at the permitting phase, that's why I do support this, if we do a phased approach and get our funding better in order.
If I may, Commissioner, allow me to share that the phase approach is a consideration we had addressed on our end, so we do have options we can bring back to the board when time comes to bring the funding plan, and you will give us direction.
There's no other comments. I wish to say a few words. This is important to me. It's important to me not just because it's in my district. It's important to me because what we are offering our kids in this park. This is one of the few places that we have an all-abilities park, a playground for kids who cannot, and kids of all ages, kids with intellectual disabilities, with physical disabilities. This is where they can play. I don't have any other playground in District 5 where it's kids who have these special abilities can actually run around and play in a playground. And I think this is so important. Also, to the people in the Cobra area, this is an issue that we programmed for, we designed, we inspected, we voted on, we allocated the funds, and now the funds are not there. So I am not pleased with the way that this has proceeded. It's a little bit like you promise a kid something for Christmas, and then December 24th comes around and you can't buy the toy. I don't want to be that dramatic. However, there are a lot of folks in Cobra that are very upset that we we have told them, we've directed, we've looked at it, and we've put the money in, and now the money's not there. So, and if it isn't true, I'd like to hear what happened when we projected this, and we had, obviously, we projected for the amount that we were putting in, and yet it's not here right now for us to finish it. I definitely approve going forward on the issue of the permitting, obviously. But I would like to see us finish these projects that we waited for, we planned for, and I know that we can. I mean, in the scheme of our entire budget, it's not that much that we're short of on this. And I think we can make it up. I think that we can proceed as soon as possible in the new year to complete this project as we plan for it, and make sure that, you know, we have some agreements with the schools in the area. You've got a school right across the street. So I think this is important, and I know that with due diligence we'll be able to proceed to finish this project as we told the people and the kids that we were. And I look forward to that one day. I know that Commissioner Barnett, but let me recognize our Administrator Baker. Go right ahead.
I just wanted to clarify the point. The funds are there. We don't start projects until funding is in place. What we're facing is the escalation of cost, is what we're facing. So we've got dollars in the bank to move this project forward. We just need additional funding in order to complete it because of the increase in cost. So we're going to lay all of that out when we come back to you, which we started doing at our last workshop. And I've heard from a number of you that you like the fact that we do workshops on these things so you can ask the questions that you have. So we're going to schedule another workshop to bring in the projected revenue we think that we've identified to help with the shortage, and then also the projects. And then at that point, we can talk about, which we've already started talking about, are there ways to phase this? Phasing may not be the solution we're looking for, because if cost continues to escalate and we delay it, then that is going to be even more. We've done that dance before. So we're going to lay all of that out for the board, but I just wanted to clarify, we did not remove funding from this project. It was funded. The board approved it. It was in the 5-year capital plan. It's in the year of assurance, so therefore the dollars are there. We cannot issue legally a contract unless we've got funds in place to do that particular job.
Thank you, Administrator Baker. Commissioner Barnett.
Thank you very much, Madam Mayor. I know we're not discussing Lake Lytle today, but it was brought up by the Vice Mayor. A few weeks ago, we talked about needs versus wants. Well, for the people in my district, Lake Lytle and the pool is a need in a community of renters who don't have a lot of options for access to pools, especially in the dog days of summer and the hottest parts of the year. I'm absolutely 100% in favor of exercising every option to streamline costs and make sure our capital projects are conducted efficiently, considering the taxpayers' money. It's not our money, building these projects and improving them in a smart way. But I would hate for Lake Lytle and our pool, one of the few pools in my district, to be on the chopping block. Just want to keep that in mind. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Baxter.
Thank you, Mayor. Did we put out a contract for this process?
We do have a contract in place. This one's with Kaufman Lean. As you may recall, representative from the company were with us last week at the workshop.
And so they're saying that they can't complete the project unless we approve more funds?
Is the construction manager at risk project. What they have stated is that the current estimate is $27 million. As staff, we know we do not have that amount in the bank. As Administrator Baker shared before, we do have the budget that was approved, and out of that, there remains about $13.8 million.
So you're saying we had the money, but there was no the RFP? Was there an RFP out for this? Where are we at,
We did an RFP to select the construction manager at risk, I want to say in 2017, so about 6 years ago.
For this project?
For this project, once 2017, 2018, if my memory doesn't fail me. We usually onboard our CMR, our construction manager at risk, close to when we are on board design. Money, the funds are there, but our approved budget for this project is around $24.9 million, and we are at a point now where we have completed phase 1A, and what remains in the bank, so to speak, is under the amount we need to complete phase 2.
And so phase 2 wasn't put in that contract, is what you're saying?
Everything is included in the contract. The estimates for the total construction of the project were under because factors such as escalation, the COVID pandemic, the impacts on the supply chain could not be forecasted.
Did the company agree to complete this project for these dollars?
They agree to a guarantee maximum price when the project is bid out, not when they're put under contract. So the way a construction manager at risk contract works is that we solicit the services through an RFP. We identify a company that will provide those services. That company gets a first authorization to work on pre-construction services. Pre-construction services is basically a collaboration with the design firm to identify where the project can be implemented in a more efficient way, and that is time and budget. Once design is finalized, they take those drawings and then they bid out the drawings for us. That's the role of a construction manager. They bid out the drawings, they get bids from the market, okay, from the different trades, and they put together a GMP. A GMP, as the name states, is a guarantee maximum price. That's the document we bring back to the board, and at that point is when the CMR is, I'm gonna say, under lock, right, to deliver the improvements for the price that has been approved. So it's at that point. It's not a budgetary issue. It's not when we set a budget for the project and they get a contract. It's when we bring back to the board a guarantee maximum price that obligates them to deliver the project for that amount.
And they don't have that?
Not
they
yet
didn't
for
have it
phase
for this
2.
phase 2?
Not yet for phase 2. Phase 2, given the authorization that we hope to obtain today from the board, will move to permitting. While permitting is underway, our construction manager will start the bidding process for the GMP, and those two come together in about 3 or 4 months.
Thank you for that explanation. I would like to, again, this is one of those processes that we need to look at, and we need to see how we can prevent this from happening in the future. It seems, yes, backwards. And it does. So I don't know what the answer is. I leave that to you guys. Currently, I will research and dig and see maybe there is some input we, the board, I would like for us to have in this process because it is not working. I mean, 2017 and 18, I would say at a minimum, I would have liked to have seen, we know costs over time historically go up. So how do we budget for something in 17, which is 6 years ago, for today? Something's off.
So if I may, and with the administrator's permission as well, I think there are a few things that are worth considering. One is, on one side, you have the tool for delivery of a project, okay? And we have several options as to how to implement the same. As I shared last week in FDO, we mostly use 2 of those options. We use what we call a hard bid, which means we have a full design completed, and now we're going out based on the lowest price, okay? And that's usually a general contractor that will come back, they will come back and say, here's my price to implement this set of bids, right, of drawings, my apologies. And we issue a contract based on that set of drawings that was provided, and the contractor is locked on that price. The tool we use most often, and there are benefits to this tool, is the construction manager at risk. Why we use that tool? Because that tool has the advantage, which is very important for complex and multi-phase projects, that it allows the construction manager to work with us and with the design team in pre-construction services. So that means that as the project is being designed, that construction manager is working hand in hand with the design firm, identifying areas where additions, substitutions, modifications can be done to better the implementation of the project. Along the way, they are also providing estimates, and we track those, and that goes back to your comment as to why the increase, why the changes. Those are the two tools that we use the most. There are other tools, and I know the concept of design build has been mentioned as well. We do have one construction department that I think is more inclined to use that tool, but as it comes to facility development, we use CMR and Heartbeat. That's how we call it. So that's one concept. How do we get projects delivered? And as I stated before, there are benefits as it relates to the CMR. The second concept has to do with budgeting, and I think it goes back to what has been the historical practice in the county. So the historical practice has been that we plan in phases, okay? So that initial request that becomes part of the capital budget is usually for the design phase. And as the budget is coming back every year and the 5-year CIP is being updated, then staff revises the update for construction, permitting, other phases as information is coming from the design perspective. I am not trying to defend one or the other. I'm trying to share information for this, with this board as to what the approach is. And back to your point, if you will like us to bring that general overview of the positives and negatives that each approach entails, I am more than gladly to bring them back.
And some possible other approaches, if you would. I mean, that's two, and I don't know that I was overly crazy about either.
Understood. I should also caveat that the approaches we use have limits that come from statutory provisions, right? So with everything we do, we're a public entity. It ties back to the regulations and the statutes we must comply with, right? So there might be things that our colleagues in the private sector are able to do that we are constrained from doing due to the regulations we have in place. But certainly we'll happily put together a presentation providing an overview of the different options.
Mayor, if I may, just one more.
Sure, go right ahead, Commissioner.
We removed an item from today's agenda because during some research, we found that one of the vendors was over budget by almost $500,000 and over 400 days late. And I would like to somehow for us to start keeping a track of vendors that go, even if that one directly doesn't relate to any of these projects, which vendors go over cost and over time, that take longer and cost more money than what was initially set out. Now, I'm sure there are reasons here, there, but if there seems to be vendors that have a pattern, the only way we would know that is by having that information.
Very good.
So I would really appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Baxter. And if I could, before I recognize our Administrator Baker, Isabel, if you could provide to the board, not just in an oral presentation at the next workshop, but if you could provide paper. I like to see an email detailing all these issues that you have to follow by statute with the statutes, because I know the government operates differently than private entities, but let's look at the statutes that we are operating under, so that when you come before us and we discuss it, we've had an opportunity to review it. Secondly, I'd like to state that following what Commissioner Baxter requested, I think, and we can discuss this a little bit too, I'd like to see a list of these contractors who have given, their work has resulted in either delays or increased costs to the county. if that is acceptable to the administration, because I want to make sure that we don't use them again, or if we just review it a little bit. I think this transparency would be very good for all of us. Thank you. Administrator Baker, you're recognized. Thank you, Isami.
Thank you, Mayor. We will follow up on those issues, but as Commissioner Baxter stated, the project that she's referring to is not a county project. It is not. But we do want the board to know that when we run into a contractor that is not complying with the agreement, we take the appropriate action. We can either suspend them or we can remove them from doing work for us. It depends upon the severity of what they're doing. But we have to be able to document why we're excluding them from the process. And we actually have a process for that. So we'll include that as we come back to the board as well.
Very good, thank you. And I see that our attorney wishes to speak. So
Yeah.
Kaufman.
Procurement does keep, has methods to keep track of vendors who are not following the purchasing rules, and they do get disqualified from bidding. A lot of what ISME does is governed very strictly by Florida statute. So when we look at accepting bids or RFPs from vendors, we determine, first of all, whether or not they are qualified in the county and eligible to submit a bid or quote. That's the point where we would consider their bad work history. It would not be something that the board would consider separately later on as well. So if they have failed to complete a project in this county, if they have failed to complete a project for another public entity, those are things that we can consider at that point where we're determining whether they're eligible to bid. And we will consider those things. There may be a way that we can beef that process up. There may be a way that we could do further due diligence to determine whether there are other things going on in the state concerning a particular vendor, particularly for a big project that we may have. So we may be able to improve that process. But part of our process should be and is to consider that at the early stages before we even evaluate their bid. We determine whether they are qualified and able to submit a bid to us. And that will include criminal history. That will include a history of unfinished projects here in the county or elsewhere for a public entity.
Thank you. Thank
If
you,
I
Ms.
may,
Kaufman.
Mayor,
Yes,
add
Ms.
to that,
Sisson.
we
Yeah.
include litigation as well. And I would like to share with the board that just because a contractor under contract requests additional payment or additional time doesn't mean we will recommend approval or we will approve it, right? So a contractor obviously always has the opportunity to raise their arguments, right? But we evaluate the same under contract provisions. And the contract is very clear as to what they can ask or not for, what is meritorious of a change order or not. And we evaluate those requests based on our contract provisions. So we don't allow to move forward something that doesn't meet contract requirements. As it goes back to the list that County Attorney Kaufman was mentioning, purchasing publishes a suspension and debarment list every week, which is important as we continue to recommend contracts to make sure we don't have someone on that list that could be a problem.
I agree that as we as commissioners are stewards of the taxpayers' money, I think it is important that we keep government transparent so that you share those lists with us so that we can review them and work with you in deciding who gets these government contracts. I'd like to recognize Vice Mayor Marino and then Commissioner Woodward.
Thank you. Isami, when you were talking about the procedure, I noticed that something that happens to us oftentimes is the first bid we get is just on the scope. And then and we put aside a certain amount of money for that. And then when we get the actual hard drawings and the engineering, then the project then escalates in price. How do we streamline that so we're not approving a smaller amount when we finally get the engineering drawings and everything? Now the amount has increased sometimes exponentially. I don't think it's in our best interest to not have the complete information if we're going to approve a project and we're going to budget it. So I don't know what that process is. You are all the process people. We're just the, at the end of the day, we're the people that set policy. And boards before us have set different policies than we have. And, sometimes the media likes to say, well, the board did this. Well, it wasn't this particular board. It was a previous board that might have done that. So I just want to make sure that the processes are in place correctly, and that when we, as the board, are approving a budget, because it's the budget that our taxpayers have to pay, portion of it anyway, the ad valorem portion, we need to have the most and best accurate information. And I think you've heard me say it before. I apologize for saying it again.
If I may share something, I was having a similar conversation with a colleague at FDO the other day who has been working for the county for many years. I think you all know I have been here about 4 years. And he made a very good point that I would like to share. Historically, because we were facing a different market, it was easier to use unit prices that were usually spot on, right? We currently have been caught in what I'm going to call a transition point. We have a market that no longer effectively resembles, right, what the thought was years ago. To your question, Vice Mayor, obviously the more information we have at the starting end, the easier it is to get closer to that exact figure. That carries some planning impacts, right? At the end, we need to make it exactly in costs. At the end, we need to make it to a CIP and to a budget. And our colleagues from OFMB need to be able to have a 5-year projection, right? So we can certainly start with the design, which is what we currently do. I think it still helps OFMB and this board to have an initial idea of where we think is going to be estimate-wise. But at the end, it's that full set of drawings and the market condition at the time that truly set the north for the final cost of the project. And I think that basically reflects what has been the standard in planning and budgeting in the county throughout.
I think one more. I think that in the past that might have been all well and good, but every time we have an agenda, we are approving increases. So I realize that it's spending more money up front, but if we're spending a little bit more money up front to have the most accurate information and not have to have constant, we need more money, I think we are better equipped that way.
And if I may add to that point, I think it will, at that point, make a commitment that this is where we're heading, right? Because it carries an investment of county resources and staff time as well.
Thank you very much, Isme. Thank you, Vice Mayor. Commissioner Woodward, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mayor. It's a very interesting conversation that we're having right now. I bring up my previous life a lot, my pre-COVID life. I worked with my husband in industrial coatings. He still does that. I sit in on a lot of calls with him. And I know we don't want to keep going back and harping on COVID, but there were unintended consequences that came from that time with supply chain. The world that exists that makes a lot of the things we uses just-in-time delivery, which means they get their raw materials in time to manufacture. When the world shut down, the littlest stop that began at the very beginning was nothing but a domino effect that we are still dealing with today. And when I brought up deflation, raw materials are deflating. The people who use those raw materials to make it are still making up lost time, lost money, paying for debt that they had to pull on here. So this board and staff, us asking staff to be able to put hard numbers on some of this stuff, I would love that. I think it's a little bit unfair for us to try to ask them to do that right now. These are unprecedented times. In my lifetime, I'm 46. I'm not, I don't go back to World War II or anything where people tell me about, how bad it was then, but we have to be realistic with what we're facing. And having hard numbers on stuff that has yet to be manufactured in a world that's in flux, we're going to continue to face these issues. And this is why we're going to have to start prioritizing. And we may have to make some hard decisions on some items moving forward here. And, talk about wants and needs and talk about where we should go. But us trying to get these hard numbers. There's a lot of things we can do. There's a lot of stuff they cannot control that we can't control, no matter how much we want to. We're not going to be able to control these costs. So I just would like to put out there, this is a difficult time. And please, we're asking, do what you can to help us with this, but also understand, we're not going to be able, for a while, to be able to put hard numbers on hardly anything moving forward. Anything that uses stuff that's manufactured, whether it's paints, it's wires, it's sheetrock, it's concrete, everything that builds something costs more. And I don't see any of that coming down in the near future. I hope so. But it's a hard time. And this board, whatever policies we make, is this the new world that we live in, or is this a temporary hitch in the road? I hope it's temporary. Only time will tell. But the stuff that we have to build now, this is a reality of what we're facing. And I don't see it changing. So,
Thank you for those good words, Commissioner Woodward. All right, I think we have already a motion on the floor, and we have a second. And does the clerk know exactly what the motion is? I'm going to make sure.
So I have a motion by Commissioner, or Vice Mayor Marino, to move the project forward. But pardon me, I thought this was a board direction item. So I do have direction that was given to the board as well. To proceed with the submission of the permit application process and schedule a future workshop to identify reducing costs. Look closely into vendors whose work results in overcost or delays, and a detailed letter highlighting what governs certain actions when there are issues supported by statutes and litigation.
Very good. Okay, do we need to vote on this, Ms. Kaufman?
I would like to see you do the motion and vote, since you have a motion on the table.
second, right.
My understanding, the motion on the table, the direction is good. I think we
Good.
keep the direction.
Correct.
But we also would go ahead and have the motion go forward, which was to apply for the building permits.
Correct.
Before January 1st.
Correct. Correct.
And then we had the motion from the Vice Mayor. It was seconded by Commissioner Baxter.
Very good. So, absent any questions, do we have everybody approve what was just stated by the clerk and also explained by the attorney? Is there anybody who disapproves of that? See that it passes 6-0. Thank you very much. Thank you. Okay, and thank you, Isami and Ms. Jennifer. Thank you, sir, all of you. Thank you for your good work. Okay, moving right on. Now we're on 5D1 with staff seeking direction. 5D4.
Mayor, I will make a motion to approve 5B4A, B, C, and D. Two of those are, item A is an agreement of purchase, item B is a memorandum of agreement, item C is an agreement for purchase, and item D is a memorandum of agreement.
Very good. We have the motion by Vice Mayor Marino, seconded by Commissioner Weiss. And absent any questions or comments, all those approve, anybody disapprove, see that it passes 6-0. Thank you very much. Okay.
And Mayor, continuing on 5B, 5A and B, I will make a motion for an agreement for purchase and sale and also a memorandum of agreement.
Very good. And I have motion by Vice Mayor Marino, seconded by Commissioner Weiss. All those approve, anybody disapprove, see that it passes 6-0. Thank you very much. Thank you. Okay, now, help me if my numbers are not
We're at 5C1.
consistent. Are we at 5C1? And does anybody wish to have a staff
I don't think so.
presentation? Very good. So why don't we go ahead and have a motion, which is,
Mayor.
wait, I'm sorry, just 1 second. I see Commissioner Barnett's light on. Go right in, Commissioner.
I was going to make a motion, but does the commissioner?
No, go ahead. Sorry, I'll do the one for 5C3.
Okay, good. She's going to save that for 5D3. 3. Go ahead, Commissioner Barnett.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Sarah. Commissioner Baxter. I'd like to make a motion to adopt a resolution of the Board of County Commissioners of Palm Beach County approving the issuance of Housing Finance Authority of Palm Beach County, Florida, multifamily housing revenue bonds for Village of Valor.
I'll second.
Very nice, very good. There's
me,
no
hang
questions or, all those,
Hang on. May make a.
do you have a comment?
I-
Commissioner Weiss,
I just
go right
need
ahead.
to, I think we need to add in, neither the taxing power nor the faith and credit of the county or any county funds are pledged to pay the principal redemption premium, if any, or interest on these bonds.
That is as stated in the record. So we have a motion and a second. All those approve, anybody disapprove? See that it passes 6-0. Thank you very much. Moving right along.
Mayor, I'll make the motion to
Give us a number.
5C2. or
5
C2.
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 My
Yep.
numbers are a little off here. Go right ahead,
To
Commissioner
adopt
Baxter.
the resolution of the Board of County Commissioners approving the issuance of the Housing Finance Authority of Palm Beach County, Florida, multiple housing revenue bonds for Calusa Point 2 by the Housing Finance Authority of Palm Beach County, Florida. Do you need me to, in the amount of $27 million. Do you need me to also read neither the taxing
That's
power?
okay, it's on the record, but you can say it if you'd like.
Neither the taxing power nor the faith and credit of the county nor any county funds are pledged to pay the principal redemption premium, if any, or interest on the bonds.
I'll second.
Very good. I have a second, first by Commissioner Baxter, a second by Vice Mayor Marino. All those approve. Anybody disapprove, see that it passes 6-0. Moving right along, I need a number. 5D1. Now, this is what I have. On page 70, staff is seeking direction, and we have a couple of cards. So while the staff is coming up, should we do the cards first? Do we need a presentation? Yes, we do. Have a seat, and good morning. Mr. Rutter, you're recognized.
Mayor, good morning. Thank you. At our last meeting, we had 2 annexation issues before you and let you know that we'd be back to you with a third. And here we are with this one. This relates to the Village of Wellington annexation initiative and seeking board direction, as you mentioned. Khurshid Mohyuddin from the Planning Division is going to run you through a quick presentation, and we are here for any questions you might have.
Very good. Go ahead.
Good morning, Khurshid Mohyuddin with Planning Division. What I'm presenting today is the Wellington's proposed annexation. Before I get to the Wellington's proposed annexation, I will go through a little bit history of annexation in the area. In 2004, Arden Development was approved, which is highlighted in yellow, cross-hatched. At the same time, county also established Glades area protection overlay and limited urban service area to create a barrier from development moving further west. Palm Beach County Charter was also amended at the same time, requiring any voluntary annexation in the area, which is unincorporated protection area, having at least 5 county commissioners vote for approval. Now, Wellington's proposed annexation is within the unincorporated protection area, but it is not proceeding with exclusive voluntary. Therefore, that charter provision is not applicable to Wellington's proposed annexation. This is a map showing previous annexations in the area. Mainly, these are the South Florida Water Management District stormwater areas on the south side of the Southern Boulevard. And also, there was, of course, incorporation of town of Loxahatchee Grove and city of Westlake. This is the general area north of Southern, about 258 acres, east and west of Seminole Pratt Whitney Road. This is the aerial. You will see 2 of the parcel almost in the middle are cross-hatched. Those are the 2 county-owned parcels totaling about 10 acres and are used for stormwater retention pond Our land use is on the left. Mainly, it's R5, 1 unit per 5 acre, and a commercial low on the west of, mainly west of Seminole Platte Winding Road. Sorry. Wellington proposal is commercial for all properties fronting Southern Boulevard and Seminole Platte Winding Road, and also a medium residential for all the rest of the properties. Wellington is proceeding and qualifies for a referendum scenario. This is the scenario where you have to have more than 70% of the land area owned by non-registered electors and at least 50% of the land acres in consent. This is the map that shows in light blue the areas which have provided the consent to Wellington's annexation. Staff's concerns. As you can see in the map, in order for Wellington's proposed annexation area residents and existing Wellington's community, they have to travel more than a mile to interact with each other. This means that the area as a whole, the community as a whole, will not act as a whole socially or economically. Our next concern is that the proposed annexation area also does not meet any of the requirements for being an urbanized area. A, it does not have at least 2 persons per acre population. B, it does not have at least 1 person per acre and does not have 60% of the lots 1 acre or less. And C, it does not have 60% of the lots developed for urban purposes and does not have at least 60% of the residential lots 5 acre or less in the area. We have met with Wellington last week and expressed our concerns to them. Also, Town of Loxahatchee Grove met with us and expressed similar concerns in our meeting. Wellington has responded, basically disagreeing with our assessment. This concludes my presentation, and we request board's direction on this item.
Thank you very much, sir. Appreciate it. Does any commissioner have any questions or comments to staff at this time? Very good. Is it possible you could put up on the board exactly, specifically what it is that you request, the direction as, it might make it easier for us?
Direction, there are 2 county parcels also in
Yes,
the
sir.
annexation area, which I will show you. These 2 parcels about 10 acres. And you know, whatever is the will of the board regarding those, we have not provided consent to Wellington for those annexations.
Okay, very good, thank you. Commissioner Woodward, please.
Thank you, Mayor. Could you pull up the map that shows, it's this map?
Yes.
Yes, that one, back one.
Is it-
Yes. Okay, so this is showing Loxahatchee Groves, which became incorporated in 2006, right?
That's correct.
When they voiced their concerns about this, do they have an annexation plan themselves? Like what is, because that's on the north side of Southern. Their entire line is north of Southern, right? And Wellington is south. Is that part of their concern if they have an annexation plan to go west?
No, they did not have the future annexation area, I believe, or maybe we didn't discuss at that time. They just reflected their concerns, just similar to our concerns.
Okay.
But their representative may be here today to answer.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you, Commissioner Woodward. Commissioner Baxter, you're recognized.
I was going to say the Vice Mayor of Loxahatchee Groves is here, if you have any questions in the audience.
We have her card.
Okay.
But thank you. All right. Any other commissioner have any questions for the staff before we go on to cards? Very good. All right, we'll proceed to the cards. Commissioner Weiss?
And folks, you can move to each lectern. It'll be Jim Barnes, followed by Jeff Sluggett, followed by Robert Shore, followed by Jeff Kurtz.
Just 1 minute, sir. Good morning.
Good morning. Jim Barnes, Village Manager for the Village of Wellington, 12300 Forest Hill Boulevard, Wellington, 33414. Mayor, Vice Mayor, Commissioners, and staff, we're grateful for this time that staff has spent with us to date, working on this issue and trying to navigate through Chapter 171. As your principal planner identified, we generally disagree with staff's assessment of the annexation that's proposed, and specifically, I think, on a couple of different cases related to one on the contiguity issue. I think it would be remiss in discounting the contiguity just because it's a stormwater treatment area. In fact, Flying Cow Road, if you look at staff's slide that references the proximity, shows the closest being Banks Forest. Flying Cow Road's actually also within the Village of Wellington, and that STA is not just a vacant piece of stormwater area. That's a partnership with the Village of Wellington and the South Florida Water Management District that also includes over 360 acres of area that, in partnership with the district, the village owns and operates as an impoundment and ultimately an environmental preserve for stormwater management, and also equestrian trails and other recreational benefits. So, in fact, a lot of the folks that are north of Southern already go through either Flying Cow Road or other roads along the Southern Boulevard corridor to either go to programs or services within the village or even go through the village to get south of the village to the unincorporated area. With the balance of the comments from staff related to the letter and purpose of Chapter 171, we would disagree that the intent is met by our proposed annexation. In fact, ultimately, really just to kind of fast forward to the end, what we want to request is you let the residents decide. This involuntary annexation process ultimately puts the final decision in the hands of those resident electors within the annexation area. And initially, we were approached by just the properties that fronted on Southern Boulevard, but contrary to what many communities do, where they just stake out commercial properties and ignore residential areas or other areas like that, we welcome the rest of the residents beyond Southern frontage that requested to be also included as part of this process. With that, I'll turn it back over to staff if they have any other clarifications, and I'm here for any questions I can answer.
Very good. Thank you, sir. Does anybody have any? Okay, very good. I think that's it. Thank you, sir. All right, sir? Just 1 minute.
Good afternoon, Mayor, Vice.
We are going to give you your 3 minutes. Just 1 minute. You're on. Go ahead, Mr. Slate.
Good afternoon, Mayor, Vice Mayor, Commissioners. Jeff Sluggett. I'm here today actually representing my father, Richard Sluggett, who is one of the property owners in the proposed annexation area. Just wanted to let you know and tell you today my father is totally 100% in support of annexing into the Village of Wellington, and we would ask that you proceed with the annexation process today. And with all due respect, we would ask that you not interfere or intervene at this point. But like the town manager, village manager said, let the affected property owners make that decision and send it to the voters. So we would appreciate you moving it forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Sluggett. Sir, just 1 minute. Okay, sir, you're on. Give us your name.
Right. Madam Mayor, Madam Vice Mayor, Commission, staff, thank you for this opportunity to speak. Robert Shore, 1742 E Road, live in Loxahatchee Groves. I am the Vice Mayor of the town of Loxahatchee Groves. I can answer questions on previous actions by council, but I'm here to try to emphasize the rural character of this area. This, with the exception of the Sluggett property, which the county already gave them a commercial zoning to move forward with whatever they asked for in the past. This was years ago. The other 37 properties are Entrada acres. This is a rural designated community, designated by the Board of County Commissioners as a rural area. This was part of back when there was annexations trying to occur and the county wanted to protect some rural areas. They developed a rural designation. This area has 12 nurseries, 6 single-family homes, 4 vacant properties, 3 religious, or 3 equestrian, 3 pasture, 2 owned by the county, Palm Beach County, 3 commercial, 1 mobile home. This is from the property appraiser website. There's 10 homesteaded residents in this area. So Wellington already told you they're going by the 70% non-voter, 50% consent landowners. So they're bypassing the homesteaded residents. They've had some developers buy up properties, become landowners, so they're trying to take that route to go through, and it's not fair to the character of this neighborhood. This is all 5-acre properties, 37 of them, with the exception of the Sluggett property on the west side of Seminole Pratt, which is 64.5 acres. And it's a great area if you drive through. To convert this to 1 million square feet of commercial and over 1,000 residents from what it is today is a travesty. You're hearing this, I believe, because you're stakeholders. You own 2 of the properties. They chose the non-voluntary route because you could stop the voluntary route because you did a charter change in the past. But state statute, when you did that charter change, did not allow you to effectively stymie the non-voluntary route as a commission. So that's the route they're trying to take. You as stakeholders, I would hope you would protect the rural character of this neighborhood. It is adjacent to our town, and it's adjacent to a 100-acre pepper farm. So to put a lot of houses right next to that pepper farm, I don't think does justice to the area. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Mayor, do you mind if I ask him questions before he sits down?
Go right ahead. Sir, just 1 minute. We have questions. Go ahead, Commissioner Baxter.
What did the town of Loxahatchee Groves, due to your rural designation, have to go through to become incorporated even?
I wasn't on council then, but we did have to ask the state to waive the requirement that staff had listed for a rural area to be incorporated. 2 persons per acre, 60% of the lots less than an acre. We don't meet that criteria, not even close. But the state recognized this gem of an area right in the middle of everything else that's happening. And so that was a hurdle that we as a town went through.
And while I'm in favor of letting voters decide, always, I think they know best, this doesn't actually give the neighboring homes outside of the area up there who will be impacted a chance to vote. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct. The planning director outlined the process that they're trying to take, and he's an expert on that, so.
And you had mentioned they became property owners in there by buying out properties so they could get the majority?
Oh, I don't know exactly what happened. I know several properties changed hands recently, and a group that had approached the town about annexing into our town previously from the town manager, and we said, sure. At our council meeting, we said, yes, we would love to have anybody in the adjacent area that wants to join our town come in. We voted on that at council. And my understanding is something else happened, and now we're here today.
And when you tried to annex, what happened?
No, we didn't try to annex. Back in 2019-20, Indian Trail was going through their incorporation efforts, and we voted as a council to have our town manager write a letter to the boundary committee saying, hey, you know, this is an unincorporated area. We'd like to annex this area. It's 37 5-acre properties, exactly like our town makeup: churches, nurseries, equestrians, pasture, residents. So we really feel this fits into our town, and their boundary committee said, no, we want to keep this in our boundary. So we backed off. We let them go through the process the last couple of years, trying to get their incorporation. But my understanding is, I believe they withdrew that this year, and now this area is being pounced on, for lack of a better term.
Do you think your board would be interested in annexing this at some future date if it wasn't by Wellington?
We had voted previously several times when this came up. One time was to tell the town manager, reach out to these people and see if they're interested in annexing to our town. We gave direction to the town manager then, and this was a couple of years ago, but priorities got shifted, and like I said, Indian Trail was in the middle of an incorporation. We wanted to respect their process to try to allow their residents to vote on whether they want to incorporate or not. We didn't want to get in there and muddy the waters, so I believe that was why the town manager kind of backed off and waited.
And I think it's important to respect the neighbors, so thank you, Vice Mayor.
Thank you very much. All right, thank you, Commissioner Baxter. We have one more card.
Good morning. Jeff Kurtz. I'm the project coordinator for the town of Loxahatchee Groves. I'm probably not going to be able to equal the eloquence of our vice mayor. I do have background on annexation. Way back in 2004, I was the village attorney in Wellington. I remember all those annexation things very well. But we're here today because Wellington is once again trying to cross over State Road 7 and annex a piece of property. Mr. Barnes indicated that, well, Flying Cow is close. And that is the closest way into Wellington from this property. But the nearest house, if you go down Flying Cow, is not a mile away. It's 2 miles away. And they have had difficulty incorporating rustic ranches into the overall flow of Wellington. What I do admire about Wellington in this annexation proposal is they haven't shied away from what they're going to do to this property. They're talking about over 1 million square feet of commercial. They are talking about housing at 3 to 8 units per acre. This for a piece of property right now that has about 30 to 36 developable units out there right now. So they're going to potentially 1,000 residential units and over 1 million square feet of space. To give you an idea on 1 million square feet of space in Wellington, the Wellington Mall has retail space of 1.2, 1.3 million square feet. I'm looking back for Mr. Barnes to confirm that. The Wellington Mall area, if you look at it, is about 0.9 miles by 0.7 miles. This is 0.6 by 0.6, smaller, but when you think about Wellington and where else they are developed to the intensification and densities that they're talking about here, it's their mall area. Why would they do that? Because nobody in Wellington is going to care about that property because it's not in Wellington and never will be.
Thank you, sir. We have no other cards. Commissioner Baxter, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mayor. I think we have and I've said this multiple times and it bears repeating, a very unique, a very amazing area, a rural area designated by a previous board. And I don't think that to a lot of the points the gentleman just made, that what they want to do regardless fits the area. But let's even go from there. I think if to be annexed into a town that matches the area and would care and take care of them makes more sense, but that's not what we're voting on here today because we weren't afforded that option. Today's option is, do we let them, they haven't met per our staff statutory requirements to annex, and do we want to support or oppose And I would like to make the motion to oppose the annexation of the Village of Wellington because it doesn't meet the statutory requirements, and I, on a side note, think it would be detrimental to that area.
Thank you, Commissioner. Do we have a second? And then I'm going to recognize Commissioner Woodward. This time, I think, Commissioner Woodward, why don't you go ahead and proceed.
So this particular annexation that is coming, the request is for it to go to the voters. Would that be on the general ballot, or would that be in the March municipal? When would this be?
I believe March.
Yeah.
March. Okay. And how many registered voters are in this particular parcel? Because it's not landowners, it's registered voters attached to this parcel.
Wellington has advised us that there are 31 electors.
31 electors. And it's 38 parcels, so the rest of them, they don't live there, or it's a commercial properties?
Some are commercial, some, yes,
Okay.
are vacant.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear what you said. Some are commercial
Some are
and?
institutional. There are churches,
Institutional. Very good.
There's vacant residential and there's residential.
And just so I understand, the requirement for it's 60% have to agree, is that 60% of those who actually cast a vote, or 60% of the voters?
No, 50% of the voters, if they agree, then it's, the referendum passes.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Weiss, you're recognized.
Yeah, thank you. Hopefully you guys can clear this up because Vice Mayor Shore referenced the fact that the homesteaded properties don't get to vote. That this is some other mechanism they're doing this with.
If they're electors in the area, they will get the vote. It doesn't matter whether their properties are homesteaded or not.
Vice Mayor, can you clarify what you said at the beginning of your comments?
Mr. Barnes, sorry.
Go ahead.
No, Mr. Barnes made reference to the annexation process they're using is 70% of the non-voters, or 70% of the land is owned by non-voters. So they're using that threshold for annexation and 50% consent of the landowners. But Mr. Barnes, if you want to clarify who's going to get to vote, and why are we talking about landowners versus voters?
Certainly to clarify, it's consistent with your staff's presentation that basically the involuntary process still has all resident electors, whether those properties are homesteaded or not. I think what Vice Mayor Shore referenced in his presentation were that the surrounding property owners who are outside of this annexation area do not get to vote. But everybody that's within the annexation area that lives there as a resident, as an elector, is registered to vote, will get a chance to vote.
And if we could clarify the 70%, Jim, please clarify that.
I'll defer to the principal
Yeah.
planner from the county
All
to
right.
go ahead and step through 171.
Right. So if you look up there, chapter 171.043, paren 5, I'll read it. If more than 70% of the acres of land in an area proposed to be annexed is owned by individuals, corporations, or legal entities which are not registered electors of such area may not be annexed unless the owners of more than 50% of the acres of land in such area consent to such annexations. Such consent must be obtained by the parties proposing annexation before the referendum to be held on the annexation. So because we have an annexation area that has 70% of the land being owned by non-electors, so basically non-individuals, they have to get 50% consent of the acres of the land before they can go forward with the
Can you say that in English?
That'll cost more.
In order to take it to referendum, to allow the voters to vote, they have to get 70%, 50% to agree they want to annex.
50% of the...
Yeah, since it falls under that criteria that 70% is owned by non-voters, since you have a 64-acre property, which is huge compared to these small properties. But I lost my train of thought. Sorry, Mr. Weiss.
My question is, so is the question in front of the board because we're a landowner regarding our position on as it relates to our property?
The item before the board, not specifically, no. What we have and what differentiates this from the ones we spoke to you about 2 weeks ago, we've identified 2 statutory provisions per Chapter 171 where we think it does not meet the requirements. So our question before the board is, we can move forward and just allow for referendum to occur. Alternatively, board could authorize us, should the Village of Wellington adopt their ordinance on final reading to move forward and proceed, we would need to challenge it. And the challenge would occur through intergovernmental dispute processes established in statute. So we would be seeking your direction to pursue our opposition to it per the statutory provisions, which Kashid touched on in the presentation, where we think it doesn't meet 171.
Okay, so going back to your staff concerns, so you're saying what staff is saying, it does not meet 171.043 because A, it does not have a population of at least 2 persons per acre per the 2020 census. B, does not have at least 1 person per acre and does not have 60% of lots less than 1 acre or less, and C, does not have 60% of lots developed for urban purposes and does not have at least 60% of residential lots 5 acres or less in size.
That's one bucket of points, and Kashid's going to pull up slide number 10, which is another.
Well, let me just stop here. So I'm going to go to you, Mr. Barnes. Are you disputing these facts?
No, those facts we are not disputing, but what we're disputing is that is the absolute letter of the 171, and we believe we meet the spirit and intent of that, which is the orderly urban development of those future areas, and areas that generally we all can agree are proposed for future urban development, particularly along the Southern Boulevard corridor.
So are you stating that we can set aside these requirements under the statute?
Well, we believe that we meet the spirit and intent, and it's not unlike many other annexations that the county has approved in the last 20 years.
I need to look to the attorneys now. This sounds like a legal question to me.
Right. We are confident they do not meet the statutory requirements. However, it is a decision for this board.
I don't understand. How can we violate the statute?
You're not violating anything. You can oppose or support their annexation.
I'm sorry.
Except they're the ones that are presenting this petition. We are not presenting the petition.
So we, under the statute, we can challenge it. We have a standing to challenge their annexation because we're the county, they're annexing unincorporated territory. This board could choose not to challenge. And if that's the case, and they go through with their annexation, and they go through with the vote and get it's approved, unless somebody else, one of the residents, challenges, it will be approved, right?
Do we forego any future challenges for any future annexations under these provisions if we say they don't apply now?
No.
No.
This is an individual situation.
I'm not an attorney, but
No.
You sound good.
No, we're not foreclosing anything. This is like any other case. You can pursue it or not pursue it. We think you have legal grounds to say no. And you have policy grounds to say no. It is up to you, though. You may not want, on policy grounds, to oppose it. That's your decision.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I believe we have Commissioner Woodward and Commissioner Baxter. Does one wish to precede the other? Oh, you both had it about the same time? Go
Thank
ahead,
you.
Commissioner Woodward.
My question is, if we oppose this, what happens at that point? Do they still have a path to move towards annexation, or does this stop it?
Well, so if we would oppose it, we would have to file or initiate the intergovernmental dispute resolution process within 30 days after the second reading of the annexation ordinance. So the process would begin before the referendum.
Okay. And we, as a non-voting landowner, we have 10 acres, is that right, in this area?
Yes, that's correct.
Were we asked, Were we one of the ones who, part of the 70% that's a non-voting landowner, were we asked if we support or oppose this?
Yeah, we were asked.
And what was our answer?
We did not, that's why we are here.
Yeah, we did not provide the consent for that. So under this method, again, they needed a 50% requirement, so they did provide that proof that they had more than 50% of the area that was consenting to move forward, but the county, which both are in retention use, but ours were not part of that.
Is it 50% of the 70? I'm sorry, this, I should have had more coffee.
It is 50% of the land, owners of more than 50% of the acres of land in the area.
That are voting or non-voting, or it doesn't matter?
It doesn't matter. It's just 50% of the owners of the land in the area have to consent for it to be able to get to the referendum process.
Okay. All right, now Commissioner Baxter.
Darren, what was that total amount of voters and non-voters?
The total population in the area, Kershit?
There's a 200 total population that we think is there based upon 2020 census is 54.
It's 54.
Yeah.
And half of that, if my math is working, is 27. So they would need to get to 28 for this to go through.
I think it's even less than that because the number of electors is only.
Yeah. Number of electors are only
So
31.
even worse, it's 16 or so people?
Yes.
Or
16.
10? And again, and would this only impact this area, or are we talking about also impacting the other 17,000 people in the acreage in Loxahatchee?
Oh, I can't really speak to the potential impacts. I would imagine if they're going to do more intense development, there would certainly be impacts beyond the property. But as far as the annexation is just concerned, it would just be moving the boundary of the town.
Thank you. And I guess, I mean, I've already made the motion, so now I guess we'll wait, see if there's a second.
Before we go on your motion, we're going to have it restated so that we know exactly what we're voting on. And I'd like to, Commissioner Woodward, do you have something to say? Go right ahead.
I did have one further question on the annexation. If this were to go through, as far as how it affects us in this area, they would retain zoning rights to approve whatever comes on that land after? And would we have any say in that?
So if this were to be annexed into the Village of Wellington, then the properties would be under the requirements and regulations of the village's code of ordinances. So their zoning, so they would have to, implement a future land use designation, zoning classifications, and then those properties would follow their code of ordinances.
And we would have no input on that as this board, right?
Correct. So it'd be like any other property within a municipality where that local government would have authority.
Okay. If there's no other comments at this time, I'm going to recognize Commissioner Baxter to restate the motion. And I just want to give my few words here that I agree with staff that we should not proceed on this. We are a landowner. I don't think anybody knocked at my door and asked me if I wanted to go along with this. I think that the Florida statute is narrowly drawn. Sounds like something out of the Old West, where not all property owners can actually vote for what they have. That seems to be like a nice little rural enclave that we should maybe maintain as it is, and that's my opinion on it at this time. So, Commissioner Baxter, would you like to restate your motion, please?
So my motion with letters is on 5D1 is to oppose the annexation by the Village of Wellington.
And do we have a second? We have a second from Commissioner Woodward. All those for it? Anybody opposed? See that it passes. I'm sorry, Commissioner Barnett? Okay. We have one opposition from Commissioner Barnett. So see that it passes, and this would be 5-1. All right, very good. Thank you very much. Now, we were to have a hard stop at 12:15, but I wanted to complete this discussion, and we have. So at this time, we are going to recess as the BCC, and we will convene as the Child Care Facilities Board at 2, wait a minute. After matters by the public. So we'll come back here as a BCC at 2, and then we'll take up those issues that remain. So we have now taken a recess. Thank you. That was interesting.
Commissioner Baxter?
That was interesting.
Commissioner Baxter? Is Betsy in a minute?
We have to take a picture.